Okay, I want to do a couple examples of decomposing a function. So you might see instructions like this, where you're to determine two functions, f of x and g of x, so that when you take the composition and get f of g of x, you end up with the square root of x minus 3 plus 4. Okay, so that's what we're trying to do. So the goal is, remember f of g of x looks like this, f of g of x. Our goal is to have that equal the square root of x minus 3 plus 4. And when you take the composition of two functions, you first calculate g of x and then input that to f, okay? So let's think about the general structure of what's over here on the right side first. So what does this look like? Whatever that looks like, that's going to be our outer function f. So one way you could look at it is it could look like the square root of something plus 4, okay? So that means what we're going to do for our outside function is we'll use f of x equals the square root of something plus 4. And in general, x is the input to the f function. So that's what we'll use for our f function by itself. Now, when you input things into this f function, it's going to go right here where x is, because that's where the input is. And what we need is x minus 3 in place of that x, okay? So we'll use g of x equals x minus 3. So we've got our f function, and we have our g function. And what we'll do now is we'll check it to see if f of g of x, we want to know, does that really equal the square root of x minus 3 plus 4. So let's work on f of g of x. F of g of x equals f of g of x is x minus 3. And then I input x minus 3 into the f function right here. And so that gives me the square root of x minus 3 plus 4. And it does, in fact, check. So again, the idea is your outer function is the general structure of what you have, with x as the input, and then you create the inner function so that it gives you what you want to input into that generic outer function. Let's look at another way to do this problem. Many times problems like this have more than one correct answer. So again, we're trying to just determine two functions, f and g, so that when you take the composition, you get this square root of x minus 3 plus 4. So another way you could do this is to think of your outer function. So we have f of g of x. We can think of our outer function as we want it to look like the general structure. And so we can think of this as something plus 4. And so the generic input for that unknown part will just be x again for our outer shell. Okay, and then what we need for our inner function is we need it to be what we want to replace this guy with. And so you can see we want that to be x square root of x minus 3. And so those could be the two functions that we use. And again, if you check, you end up with f of g of x, which equals f of g of x. Work from the inside out. G of x is the square root of x minus 3. And then we have to put that into the f function where x is. Here's our f function. So we get the square root of x minus 3 plus 4. And so that also works. So we've seen a couple different ways to create or to decompose this composition function into two functions f and g. Okay? So it's all about observing the general structure of a function and then putting whatever input you want into the proper place.